Hello, and thanks to everyone that took the time to watch this presentation. A little bit about me. I'm a student at Southern New Hampshire University. I'm a senior there. I'm doing game development, the game development program, as well as computer science. Here we're going to be looking at some roles in game programming, or a team of game programmers, and more specifically our role, which is the programmer. My goal, obviously, since I chose this role, is to become a programmer on a game development team. I've always found that very, very interesting, and we'll talk about that more. So, we've got the programmer, and obviously, they're really what makes the game special and innovative. They make the new functions, they create complex algorithms from entire game engines to basic stuff like establishing a dynamic mesh that maybe reacts to a player character's input. And for that, when you're wanting to be a game programmer, you need to have some serious skill. Innovative new games don't come from keyboard jockeys. These are the skills and abilities that I feel are the most important to be a programmer on a game development team. I categorize them into soft skills, which are general abilities, and more specific technical skills. So starting with the soft skills, problem solving is the first one. Obviously, this is being able to look at a problem and find a solution to it. When it comes to programming, you run into a lot of snags. Being able to untangle the wires is an important part of the job. Up next in soft skills is organization. And obviously, it's important in everyday life to keep things in the right order, but more so when it comes to being a developer. If code is poorly organized or commented, or the file structure is not adequately addressed, it can be disastrous. Now we come to technical skills, and the most obvious one. Game programmer has to be able to write some scripts. There's no cookie cutter dev job though. You need to be able to bring cutting edge innovation to the code in order to make an experience that will have your audience wanting to come back for more and feeling there's something unique about your specific game. Next in technical skills, we have testing and debugging. For anyone not familiar with writing code, this is what's done when a program isn't running as it should. The programmer then has to go back into the code, hunt down the bugs, fix them, and test again. As generally a circular process, finding and fixing issues before a game is released can be the difference between an unplayable flop and a AAA immersion. Finally, for the necessary skills to be a programmer on a game development team, you've got to know math. Objects bump into each other in games. Things spin around. Sometimes a laser goes from the barrel of a gun to hit another wall or even another character. All these interactions are done through mathematical evaluations. The use of vector math, linear algebra, quaternary calculations, and calculus are everyday occurrences for a program developer on a game development team. Programmer needs to be well versed in mathematics, otherwise the in-game bullet that was meant to hit the terrorist might come down on the civilian's head, regardless of the player's accuracy. And then, so what we're looking at is a comparison of what we have here, what I said, versus an actual job, an open position right now in the industry for a game programmer on a development team. Most of the required skills are similar to what I've got, with the additional criteria of having a passion for video games that was added on the listing, as well as having previous experience developing for consoles as opposed to not. And then, why am I interested in being a video game programmer? We come to the reason for this presentation, obviously. As you might have guessed, I'm very interested in becoming a programmer on a game development team. I broke this decision into school-related experiences and those in my life outside of coursework, and we'll reflect on those. So here at Southern New Hampshire University, I've learned learned a lot about game development. That's probably the biggest factor in my decision for wanting to be a programmer in that area. I'm in my final semesters of school for my bachelor's in computer science and game design. The coursework has given me a ton of different exposure to all the components of the game design process. And I'm really glad that I took some of the classes I did, because it brought about a true realization that I have no interest in the fields as they stand currently for some non-programmer fields, obviously. So having skills in graphic design can come in useful at any time. I got a lot out of the classes I took for graphic design, but technology is really moving fast with AI-assisted design nowadays. Features like select and mask in Photoshop have actually eliminated entire employment sectors. Then we come to level design. I mean, it can be fun, a lot of fun. The issue is that's a huge time drag. At one point, I spent 37 hours developing an island with dynamic landscape features. It was pretty amazing. Then product didn't really satisfy me though, as much as writing a new function or solving a complex problem or issue I'm having in the code. Then we have modeling, or more specifically in my coursework, 3D modeling and animation. I enjoy doing this as well, but when it comes to making photorealistic static meshes, I'm kind of a perfectionist. I want the curves of the mesh to align perfectly with the shading of the normal map, while maintaining as low a number of polygons as possible to ensure the object isn't a drain on the GPU, which is especially important in virtual reality experiences. This behavior that I've shown, though, has shown me that I'm a slow modeler. As with anything in life, it's a skill. I could continue working to hone that. There would certainly be improvements. But you only live once, and I don't have enough interest to devote the necessary energies to modeling and animation. Then after that, we've got the good stuff from Southern New Hampshire University that I experienced. And this is the school-based educational courses, obviously. With my game design instruction, there was a lot of other lower-level elements, but I was mainly designing the game as a whole, while planning and making decisions that had tremendous impacts on the outcome of the game I was developing. We're talking about the game design courses. I really enjoyed this type of work, and it's something that can be directly tied into programming positions. As team's solo programmer, or on a much larger team as a senior member, you'll have a lot of input when it comes to high-level design in the game development process. And then obviously the big one, just general programming courses. Writing a program that does what is intended to do is one of the best feelings in the world, especially true when you're approaching a problem with limited information. The quest is remarkable. I found this love of programming during my schooling, and it has been developed me, and I've developed as an individual as well. And then we come to outside of school. I've gained a lot of experiences based on my experiences growing up. My dad was a programmer. I've also taken additional online programming courses outside of class and interacted with members of the gaming community. So when we're talking about the gaming communities, the gaming development community is strong. I've had many interactions with employed members of the sector that will stick with me through my career. Those of most note, for me at least, were the Oculus Developers Forum, Virtual Reality UE4.com, and Gamasutra. My passion in gaming is virtual reality, and my drive for programming has been to stick with that drive or desire. Oculus has put out amazing products that developers can engage with, and they also have a large resource for the community in their documentation. This isn't always going to be the answer, however, because it always isn't going to give you your solution. And that's where the forums come in, or the game developer community for this area. In most cases, if you're running into an issue, someone has already been there and solved it. If you do have a new inquiry, though, or bug, you can just post on. The active members will always be there to help. The first time I ever used these type of forums, I was just trying to figure out how to get the system up and running. And through direct interaction, I was able to get my quest running, get a game going, and get it all figured out. Now I'm to the point where um, I'm communicating directly through the sites or Discord to other developers in my specialization of choice. And there is one hang-up area that I've been trying to seek help for, and that's developing a full-body inverse kinematic system in Unreal Engine for virtual reality. So the gaming communities are great, but I've also found times where sometimes they didn't really have the answer for me, and I'm still kind of on the search myself to get that goal accomplished. And then with my dad, when I was growing up, he was a developer. I always had a steady job, worked normal hours, seemed to enjoy what he did. In the past 4 years, he moved to a small town where there are very few programming jobs. So to stay active, he took on a role. After several months of working there, though, we talked about how it was going for him, and he said that it was just a job and not an adventure. Um, as a game development programmer, there's always more exploration and opportunity. I want a career that I walk into happy every day. Then we have the course I took outside of school, Udemy, great resource. The two most eventual were C++ development boot camps that I did for game creation on Udemy. My desire to keep learning so that I can be at the high level of innovation that's needed for the field has always been really important for me. And I could sit and program for days and enjoy it in some cases even more than going outside and doing other things. And then beyond the Oculus Developers Forum, we also have VR UE4 and Gam465, which we've had interactions with. VR UE4, or it's more commonly called the VR expansion, started as a plugin to help people with their virtual reality projects in Unreal Engine. It was created by a solo programmer, and he made it free. This is a community I want to be part of. Engineers developing tools to help other creatives deploy experiences they'll be enjoyed for years to come. And they do also post YouTube videos from time to time where they go through functions, and you can actually interact directly with the developer in those gaming community chats or with other people that use the product. And then the next one, Gam465, a little bit of a cheat category because that was given to us by the professor. It's more general gaming community with more information than someone consume in a lifetime. It's a conglomeration of knowledge. It ensures the community stays informed of new trends as well as working out difficult problems together. Through this group, I was also able to get a question about the best game engine to study if I want to work in virtual reality answered. I was told that if I wanted to do specific things that I need to use the one that gets updated most with Oculus, which is of course Unity as opposed to Unreal Engine. A lot of the time in communication you're actually speaking with someone who works in the gaming community, so Gam465 is another powerful one as well. At this point we know the job I want, we know why. So next we're going to look at the skills I currently have, some gaps where I am now and where I want to be, as well as how I'm actively working to solidify my experience or expertise. So as we discussed previously, if you want to be a game developer, you have to have certain skills. Now we come to those skills and where I fit in regards to that. When it comes to problem solving, I have a lifetime of experience. I was in sales for 10 years, and if you get good enough at it, you realize that every sales solution is just solving a problem. In school, I've worked through difficult and complex problems all the way to the level of heuristics and non-deterministic mapping. One area that I've found that I need improvement in this area is with my steps to some of my problem solving. When I'm taking that approach, many times I find myself piecing together solutions bit by bit. Since the recognition of this, it has been my goal to take a step back and look at the problems as a whole before starting to pull at individual threads. When it comes to organization, in my life, I keep a clean, organized home. My schooling has taught me how to maintain organized file, code, commenting, This was especially enforced during my HTML courses, as having well-organized website files is essential. With C++, I did notice that the majority of the time when I create new functions, I leave the necessary information in the H file as it stands instead of inside the CPP. This doesn't have any negative effect on the program output, but when a new developer reviews someone's code, it's best to have it organized in a logical manner. And while considering this delinquency, I came across an article on the Gam465 gaming community. Back to that gaming community topic, a developer had also created a game and then handed it off for the maintenance to a larger company. When he went to visit and check up on the state of the game, he had some time to speak with programmers on the project. They couldn't express enough how the organization of the game code came along with the commenting and how much time it had saved them and effort. After reading that, I have made it my standard to organize functions and variable groupings in my .h before initiating any sort of code implementation. With writing code, I've learned a lot. I've worked in multiple IDEs, developed a lot of different languages being interested in virtual reality, though I follow the trends, and as mentioned before, Unity has more support for virtual reality development than Unreal Engine. Unity's main programming language is C#. I've taken many in and out of school courses for C++ development in Unreal, but I haven't even dipped my feet into Unity. To correct this lack of knowledge, I've signed up for a Udemy development course online, and on completion I'll get a certificate for that course as well. Up next we have testing and debugging. It's been one of my favorite pursuits of this entire adventure, whether it be working with my own code or just taking pre-scripted, non-operational programs and making them function as they're supposed to. It's always been a good time for me. An area for improvement I'm working on here is the use of internal debugging tools that are included in the IDEs. Most of the debugging I've done manually, but even basic programs have debugging assistance, and for that reason I've started to dig more into the Visual Studio documentation, so I can fully encompass the knowledge required to break down the big problems. Next, or finally, we have mathematics. It's probably my lowest level of skill out of the bunch. I've general understanding of the majority of the concepts. Haven't worked them to the point of repetition where I can easily pull the formulas from memory though. Generally, I have to go back and research operations before I implement them. And I'm sure though that as time goes on and I keep using these concepts, it'll become second nature. But as an additional boost, I've taken ongoing math scholarship through Khan Academy. And finally, I wanted to thank you today, whether you're considering me for employment, watching this video for fun, or even grading me on my efforts. I appreciate you taking the time today. This project has helped me to further my understanding and hone my skills, and the proof of concept will show those actions as well.